Hello. I'm your host again, as always, the Archivist. But I'm not usually in my garb, and this is one of the first videos I've done in a long time. And so, today I'll be doing a binge watching video in the semi-style. I'll try to be as entertaining as Brad watches. So this video will be humbly entitled Greg Watches. And what I will be watching, or binge watching today, is the Tick 90's TV show. Yes, that's right. It was if I remember, the second. First there was the comic, then there was the cartoon show, and then there was the live action show, and then nothing until the new thing on Amazon Prime, which I'll also get into at the end of this video. And a few minor notes here and there, comparisons mostly. So, and to make this an official homage, parody, tribute video to Brad Tries, I will be doing this video without my shoes on. One. Two. And socks. And another sock. There. That is very relaxing. Yeah, thanks, Brett. Alright. So this is the early 2000s, I think it was 2004 something. I don't remember when this was coming out. But yeah, it was early. It was definitely in the It was definitely in the 90s. It has that wacky 90s humor. So let's see how this stands the test of time. Should have brought Bruce with me. All right. First episode. Okay. Oh, this was a fun episode. Even after all these years, I find it hilarious. The dialogue is... It's just so chock full of comedy. The whole thing's with this comical dialogue with everybody. Everyone has comical dialogue. The villains, the heroes, Mr. Fishladder, the company, I think it was like bank manager or something to do with money. President that Arthur works at. President of the company Arthur works at. His name is Fishladder, and it's played by, I forget what his name is, but he's the guy that played Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He was Doc Brown in Back to the Future trilogy. I forget what his name is, but he's that famous actor. He's that guy, and even he has like this 1 5-minute scene, and he's fabulous in it. Dialogue is very 90s. It's very comical. There's some, not dialogue, but speeches done by the Tick. Basic self-narration, as he does, because he does that in the comics, he does that in the cartoon series, and here, the Tick is played by Putty from Seinfeld, interestingly enough. And I don't know who the hell Arthur is. And the city is still called The City, by the way. It's never actually given a proper name. And we are introduced to, instead of Deflator Mouse showing up, we get Bat Manuel, pun, because Manuel is a Hispanic name, so he's a Hispanic Batman, hence the title Batmanuel. So instead of being a white playboy, he's now a Hispanic playboy. Yeah, that's a big difference there. And then we get introduced to not American made, but Captain Liberty. That's right. So American made is turned into Captain Liberty. Oy. And of course they're at odds and they bicker. You know, it's a love-hate relationship. In this, they actually do get back together again. In the cartoon series, they don't. They just had a past relationship. It was like a one-night stand or fling or something like that. Arthur does not say where he gets the suit from. He just says he has it. So it is unclear whether he made it himself, even though he is very smart, or he found it somewhere. That's not known in this pilot episode. So yeah. So yeah, it's fun. So the villain of the episode is called the Red Scare. In the next installment, it will be referred to as the Red Terror, but more on that at the end of the video. So the Red Scare was originally programmed to kill Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, and then what was later programmed by our current villain group, some Russians of some sort, to kill the Master Sergeant General of the Postal Service. But guess who's in town today? Jimmy Carter! So the robot says, I'll go off and kill Jimmy Carter then. So that's what the robot does. So there's this fight scene in the... Well, it's a poor fight scene, but it's a silly fight scene, so it feels satisfying, the fact that it's silly. But, yeah. There's a silly fight scene between the Red Scare and the Tick in an elevator trying to save ex-president Jimmy Carter, which we never actually see, so all we see is the back of his head. So, I'm guessing by this point, neither Jimmy Carter is dead, which would be the most likely thing, or they couldn't get him, and they had to just have some, what do they call it, a back stand-in, or a back double. But I do believe Jimmy Carter is a lot thinner than this guy. I think, now that I'm thinking about that. No, I'm thinking of Ronald Reagan. But anyway, yeah. So, it's a good episode. It stands the test of time. Let's see what the other, like 7 episodes, something like that. It's like less than 10. I believe it was like less than 10 episodes that were ever actually made. So, let's see how the rest turn out. Well, this episode started off with what in the world? It's like the Tick is is doing a eulogy at a funeral for someone called the Immortal. So the episode's bookend ended with this funeral for this superhero called the Immortal, and we flash back to earlier where everyone's in the Lonely Panda, which I'm guessing is their superhero hangout other than that diner from the cartoon series. And in TV shows or in stories where it's like you have your baseline and then like the story does that, like, we're totally going to go to some place, like we just went there, like there's no subtleness to it, we just went there. It's like okay, story, you just went there, so it's like okay. So everyone's at the Lonely Panda. Arthur sees a girl he has trouble talking to. Captain Liberty, quote unquote, is doing a escort service for the Immortal, who's alive at this point, for his book tour. So she goes off to do the book signing, and the episode, starts off with all this hype about the Immortal, how strong he is. He saved the world X number of times, so he's like Superman, and he saves the moon not twice but 3 times. And so, okay, so this guy's really, really strong and invulnerable, hence the immortal, the title, the Immortal. So Captain Liberty is taking him to the book signing, where they have a stopover at his hotel room, and then we cut back to the diner where everyone's still at and is having this conversation about seizing the moment and talking to girls. Now, I have a trouble talking to girls sometimes myself, but seeing Arthur just unable to speak was painful. I mean, he just couldn't get one word out. Wait. I can talk, I just don't know what the hell to say, but I can do better than that. Anyway, so at this pivotal moment in their dynamic, Batmanuel gets a call because he has the Batmanuel phone, and it's Captain Liberty. Turns out the Immortal ain't so immortal anymore, because apparently in the midst of how do I say this delicately? Well, basically, she effed him to death. Let's put it that way. No other way around this, honestly. Yeah, the episode just went there. I know, I'm just as shocked as you are. So that's our theme for the episode. It turns into Weekend at Bernie's, for crying out loud. So everyone comes over shocked that the Immortal is now dead from sleeping with Captain Liberty. And so they wrap his body up in an American flag, have Batmanuel pose as the Immortal for the book signing, and wackiness and hijinks ensue while the taken Arthur takes the Immortal back to his hotel room to put him in his bed and say, leave him there for people to find him and say, oh, good, he died mysteriously in his hotel room, and not at, I'm guessing, wait, that wasn't their hotel room. No, where they stopped off at was at Captain Liberty's place, not the hotel room. Sorry, correction there. And so that's the whole episode, was just to get the body to his hotel room. And Arthur seizes the moment. He talks to the girl, gets her number. It's very sweet. I don't think we see her again. I'm not sure. But it's a nice scene. Gives a bit of a small little character story arc for Arthur for the episode. Excuse me. The chicken nuggets I had earlier in the other episode, in the other video. The episode ends with the Tick giving this really touching, idiotic eulogy for the Immortal, and like everyone's there, like the whole world is like, all the world leaders are present, and the Tick gets a standing ovation, and that's basically it. That's just, the 90s were a different time. Yeah, it's hard to think of anything. Well, it's a comedy is a thing. So, but it's hard to believe that even a comedy. Okay. Well, maybe not even a comedy, but to have a storyline where the main consensus is that a character is brought in and then drops dead in the midst of coitus, and the focal point of the episode is to drag the body all around and trying not to have people notice you have a dead body wrapped up in the American flag. You know, but we don't even see that today. Hardly we ever deal with, even in comedies, the dead body storyline. So yeah, it was a different time, and it was a comedy, so it's a bit more acceptable that way. Yeah. So kind of makes me laugh. It's still an entertaining episode. Everyone's still on point. A lot less goofy dialogue, but this one's a lot more intense dialogue. Like, just do as I say type of thing. So yes. So that was episode 2. Let's see what episode 3 has in store for us, and see if it keeps its momentum going as well as the comedy. Onward to the next episode. Well, okay. Episode 3. Alright. Well, we gotta establish the dynamics of relationships, especially with superheroes. This one's about, you know, what is the definition of the Tig and Arthur relationship, and the relationship dynamics of the other characters, which is illustrated or whatever by the duo-ship of Fiery Blaze and Friendly Fire. Yeah. Yeah. So, they come in and introduce of the episode. I recognize the Fiery Blaze guy as the actor who plays Hellboy. Not entirely sure, but I believe that's him. Interestingly enough, Hellboy can withstand fire. So, yeah, that's something. So, they come in with their dynamic of, you know, hero and sidekick, and so Arthur and the Tig are having to realize that they're equal status, you know, a duo ship has to have like an actual name, because like no one's like who's really, they're both just heroes. So it kind of, even though they have a really good dynamic and a strong, tight dynamic, it's still it's just referred to as dynamic. They're just both heroes. So seeing this dynamic between these two, hero and sidekick, you know, they have to say, okay, now what are we? And it has this episode has the undertones of homosexuality. So I'm like, oh, great episode. So now we just wandered into the realm of Bert and Ernie all of a sudden. You know, it's that subtleness. Okay, for me, growing up watching Sesame Street, Bert and Ernie were just two people living in a room, sharing the same bedroom. I'm guessing because most likely they'll have their weird dialogue, you know, of Ernie doing annoying things and Bert getting angry about it, you know. So I never consider them, you know, in any regard to be homosexuality. You know, people can just be, you know, roommates, basically. You know, I don't think they ever shared a bathtub or anything. They just shared a bedroom, but they had twin beds with their initial on the foot of it. You know. So yeah, everyone keeps making these like stop trying to read the imaginary depth, imaginary depthness into the skies, you know. So pretty much the same thing with this dynamic, where it's like they just feel like, you know, regular hero and sidekick, but the episode wants to kind of put in those subtle undertones, like it's supposed to parody, you know, homosexuality relationships or something. Like every time we have a two-guy relationship dynamic of any sort, either like recently with Sherlock, you know, they got to throw that in there too. I'm like, really? You can't just have a bromance and just be done with it? Whatever. Again, the 90s, it was a different time. But other than that, a bit of annoyance, it does establish their dynamic between the Tick and Arthur. You know, they realize they're both heroes. They both need each other. They have a good dynamic. They work well together, even though they do get on each other's nerves sometimes. They do ultimately have a good, strong dynamic. As opposed to others who apparently really feel, you know, like they're not in a really great relationship. Some would say even toxic. But, you know, I've never been in one, so I wouldn't know. So, yeah, that's that episode. Let's see episode 4 be a bit more interesting. Oh, and Batman Well and Captain Liberty, their not dynamic, but like definition for the episode is that they're lonely people, and she tries to get a dog, and that backfires, literally. Or should I say explodes in her face. The pun. Anyway, so see you in the next episode. Onwards. Okay. So in episode 4, so the Tick, after the Tick and company, Arthur and, you know, the gang, defeat a giant robot, the police ask for their license, which everyone does hand over, except for the Tick. And the guy says, "No license, huh?" And Tick's response is like, "This is the part where I say, uh-oh, huh?" He's like, "Yep." So this is the trying to find the truth behind the Tick episode. Now this episode I saw, or mostly saw, back when this thing originally aired back in the 90s. I believe it was the only episode I saw. I saw the coming attractions for it, or promos. And remember how I reverted back in the other episode? There we go. In the other episode about Sesame Street and Bert and Ernie. Well, interestingly enough, Grover makes an appearance in this episode, just on the TV. We're trying to figure out the truth about the Tick. They say he doesn't remember anything, so he has amnesia, only up to the point where the fact that he knows he's called the Tick. And yeah, they do DNA, missing persons, and all that stuff, trying to figure out who the heck he is. And at one point, Tick thinks Grover is his dad. He says, like, he looks at the TV and is like, "Dad?" And it's Grover, you know, doing the hand puppet thing. So that all goes on. Some lady shows up claiming that the Tick's name's Ted, and they kind of live together for a little while, and they rescue the Tick, saying that the woman's a nut job. She goes in uh, takes in missing people, and then, well, we don't know what she does with them afterwards. She just takes them in and says that they're her husband. So the tick leaves, and after that they make up a license for the tick. So the tick is called Mr. Daly. The police call him "Have a good day, Mr. Daly," and the tick responds, "Please call me IP." And then they leave. And so yeah, it was back to a more funnier episode, a less undertoned episode. It was straightforward. There's no reading into it. It is what it is. There's nothing kind of like hidden layers or anything. It's exactly what it gives you, which is nice. I like that episode even back then, and I like it now. It's straightforward and it's simple. No real danger in this one. There's no real major threats. It's just some crazy lady. That's it. We'll see what the next episode happens. Has in store for us. I'm pretty sure it has some villain in it somewhere. That's a pun. Everyone's name in this thing is a pun. Strangely enough. Back to it then. Okay, so all right. So this episode has Arthur's, apparently that girl back in episode 2 does not make an appearance, but a girl from high school does. Okay, now I'm going to say this. I have never met anybody from my educational career. Ever. No. I've never met anybody from kindergarten. I've never met anybody from elementary school. I have not met anybody from middle school. I have not met anybody from high school or college. Yeah. So, yeah, people say, "Oh, I bumped into someone I went to school with." It's like, yeah, that's never happened to me. So, so this episode's that Arthur meets his high school crush. She talks to him, but the only reason she's talking to him is because of the suit. So Arthur kind of just goes with it, and then the tick's kind of crowding them, and that's basically the plot of that. That's basically their plot of the episode. The subplot is about Captain Liberty having one of those bad celebrity nude pic moments, and she is in big trouble with that, and wackiness ensuing of trying to minimize the damage. That's the B plot, and that's basically it. So it's another straightforward, rather nicely comedic, but overall, again, non-superhero themed episode. So let's get into the next episode, and hopefully there will be an actual villain this time. Alright. Okay. In this non-action packed adventure filled episode, we see a bit more of the lore of the city, sort of. Well, basically we see that what the heroes are commonplace in the city, or I guess throughout the world in that universe. And so we see what the League is up to, and apparently there are a bunch of preppies. They're a bunch of privileged preppy people, apparently. Like something out of that. What was that movie called? Where they joined the fraternity called like the Bones or something. Then they see a murder. They don't know who committed it, so the newcomers are trying to find out who it is. Oh, it's one of those university college ones. I forget what it's called. But anyway, yeah, it's my tongue. But anyway, the point is that the Tig and Arthur find out that the League is not as awesome as they think. Much like the Immortal back in episode 2. The people you think are such big heroes are not like the best people in the world. They're not villains, but they're just not nice people. Interesting note, back in episode 2 with the Immortal, the Tick was all for trying to save the concept of the Immortal being a hero, which is interesting because a lot of the other hero stories I've seen is about them saying that when someone's trying to uphold the image of the hero, like the image of King Jellybean, the image of the Vindicators, when characters and people do that, it's because it turns out these people are not heroes. They're on the verge of being villains and this and that. We're like King Jellybean, who's basically a molester. One of my favorite episodes, by the way. I love Rick and Morty. Maybe I'll binge watch them next. Anyway, so when you see someone do that, it's always for like in a self-preservation-y or a preservative manner, because the lie is better than the truth because it gives people hope and this and that. But with the Tick in that episode, it was just to give people a bit more state of mind. It wasn't so much to comb over or smooth over the fact that he was like an anti-hero or a villain. It was that he died with a bit more dignity. Granted, he was also, Batman was, but the Immortal was served a subpoena. No, it wasn't a subpoena. It was a maternity test. And so, it was just the whole process and why it was, acceptable was to just give people a bit more state of mind in the face of the fact that someone they thought who was immortal is now dead. That's basically it. So it's a bit more it's a lot more acceptable that way. Because everyone else is basically just flat out lying. So, yeah, it's an interesting contrast for that episode and everything else. So, like I said, it was a simpler time, the 90s. So, so even though it wasn't action-driven, it was interesting seeing how a hero called the Champion works for a law firm. I didn't quite get the idea of what the heck he was doing, trying to have this dual identity, and he was somehow screwing up with everything that he was doing in the law firm while he was working with the League. I didn't quite get that. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how people did that. But to have like people suddenly realize, even like the guy who delivers sandwiches, I guess it was some Asian guy with like a basket and a hat thing. Sandwich shop hats. I used to wear those things in elementary school. I know what they look like. And so, having him, like the sandwich delivery boy, say that, he's not, you've never fooled me, and all the time I've delivered sandwiches here to their to the attorney's place, where they work. So having that moment's kind of nice because he's supposed to be a parody of Superman. So it's kind of nice to say, like, yeah, you never really fooled us. Well, never fooled him. He fooled some of the other people, but they were kind of like, wait, kind of looks like the champion, But it's like, oh wait, you are the champion. Oh, no wonder you look so much like him. But that was kind of a nice scene. Rather anticlimactic, but still good dialogue, interesting concepts, and seeing how a league can, because we see the Justice League be all nice, but then we see this, and it's like, well, how easily a league can go to this preppy, privileged group, or not society, but like group. And I think the next one should have a villain. At some point, we have to have a villain before this ends. So, here's hoping we get a villain in the next one. Alright. Bye. Still digesting those chicken nuggets. Anyway, well, it looks like I got my wish. In this episode, we actually got a villain. Destroyo. Interesting design. Very cheesy looking design, but still an opposing design nonetheless. So, apparently this is a trial episode where Destroyo is put on trial, not for being a villain, but for having a fender bender with Batman when he's picking up to take an Arthur from the mall because they don't have a car. And so the trial goes awry. It looks like Destroyo gets to get off scot-free. Doesn't like it at all, so he gets put into contempt of court and gets tossed in holding for overnight. And it's alright then. Sorry about that. That's for the next video anyway. So yeah, this is the episode. It's a funny episode, as they've shown in the previous episodes, past few episodes, that it has comedy, it has a good amount of wit to it, but we finally get a villain, which is really good. And it's supposed to be a parody of Hannibal Lecter, where he manipulates people from inside his jail cell, and yeah, it's a fun, silly episode, a bit better than the other ones, because it's not, undertoned or anything. This is just exactly what it is. Again, it's straightforward. Yeah. So, I give it a thumbs up. Well, this is another interesting episode. Okay, remember how I said earlier in the series how they had that undertoned episode back in Couples, and I didn't like that? This episode also has a undertone of, well, let me explain. We start out with the episode with the fact that Arthur has not told his parents that he is a superhero. And so everyone uses the word, to come out and say it before they see it in the media. So yes, there's that undertone, you know. So they're trying to use that, blah blah. Now that would kind of make me feel a bit like, guys, are we really doing this again? Like, I hate it when movies kind of, when stories do that. But the thing that gets interesting is because when he meets his family and tells them about it, that he's a superhero, they think he's nuts because he's running around in a moth costume, claiming to be a superhero. No, they just know he's just average Joe, smarty pants Arthur, and they don't think of him as superhero Arthur. So they have him committed to the Hero Deprogramming Center place. The thing is, Tick was left behind at the apartment, thinking Arthur would just be back that later on that afternoon after lunch. But Arthur doesn't come back for like a week, and Tick's going nuts trying to fight the clogged toilet and the backed up a shower. But the dialogue in that scene when Arthur leaves is really nice. It's really fun. I like it how the Tick just dramatizes everything. So when he's having plumbing issues, he's there and he's trying to unclog the toilet. The whole dialogue is just gold. That's just gold right there. But anyway, yeah. So the Tick, Arthur goes missing. The Tick goes kind of nuts. He starts talking to the toilet more so like it's his sole companion at this point. Until when he goes to Batmanuel and Captain Liberty to find out what the heck happened to Arthur. They find out where he is. They go. They rescue him. Arthur gets his costume back. He talks to his family and lets them know, goes, "I'm not nuts. I am a hero. Even though some heroes can be a bit eccentric and a bit nutty, they're heroes too." So everyone, the whole episode leaves off on a positive note, which is nice. So it's a subtle underthread, and it's not too overused or hammered in or whatever. It's just this nice little parallel, and it's easily tolerable in this episode as opposed to the previous episode and to other stories that tend to use that plot point a bit much. So this was done rather well, despite the fact they had no real, not villain, but definitely an antagonist, put it that way. So stars all around, and let's see what the next episode has, because we only have one more, which is the unaired episode. Bye. Oh boy, I'm glad this only had 9 episodes. I'm starting to fade out here a bit. Alright, so I've been awake all night. What do you want? So this episode is called The Terror. It was unaired, and it was supposed to be like an anniversary episode, talking about what takes place immediately after the seeing a promo here for the Funny Pit season. Interesting. Okay. It was so basically this would be like chronologically episode 2 pretty much, because it showcases what happens after the Apocalypse Cow, where Captain Liberty decides to give Tick a supervillain to fight, and she decides to give him the biggest supervillain of all time, the Terror, and he takes him on. The Terror comes in like a grizzly old man, can't do his job right. The Tick is just like kind of like he's talking to a 5-year-old, like, I'm really not, like, you're not really bringing it, dude. Anyway, the terror apparently has like a heart infarction or something. Anyway, he passes out. They take him to the hospital. He jams a needle into his throat, into his chest, like Pulp Fiction, and suddenly he's better again. Anyway, he jumps up, takes out Batman well, straps him down to a gurney, tries to take on Arthur, but then he's saved by the Tick, and the episode ends with Arthur saying that he had taken the leap of faith from ordinary accountant Arthur to hero Arthur was because of his inspiration. He was inspired by the Tick, as insane, nutty, dangerous, and a bit confusing at times. He was inspired by him to step up and have the leap of faith. So, all that being said, series as a whole, what did I think of it? Well, most of it stands up pretty well. Each individual episode is still funny. Is it cornball? Yes. Is it up there with, all the other cornball superhero shows? Like, the Batman and Robins from the 70s. Yeah. It's up there with that. And the George Reeves, shows. Yeah, it's up there with those too. The dialogue is smart. It can be quippy. It can be insightful. It can be even inspiring, which is what the Tick's dialogue is. He's very inspiring. Acting is good. Putty really works his range here. I don't know what the hell else to call him. So yeah, Putty shows his superhero side. Even though he still sounds like a brainless dullard, he actually feels like an inspiring character. Arthur really invokes the timid hero type, but still courageous. So does Batman well, and so does Captain Liberty. They're incredibly flawed, but they're still heroes. What else to say? It holds up now. Every episode pretty much more or less holds its own. They're still entertaining and funny episodes. I love them. That's why I got this thing off of Amazon for about $5, because I like the episode I saw, or little bits of the episode series, little bits of the episodes I've seen back in the day. And I have volume 1 of or season 1 of the of the cartoon series, and basically the only real difference between these is that in the comic book, the Tick was in an insane asylum, and then on a whim decided to go and be a hero in the city. As he just says the word balloon, saying, "I think I'll be a hero, so I'll go to the city." That's literally it. In the TV show, they have an introduction TV interview where they backflash about the Tick being in Reno, and that one year he decided to attend the superheroes audition where he is sent to the city, where apparently they send a lot of the reject heroes. In the TV show that I just reviewed, the Tick is at a bus stop. I'm guessing he's just on some sort of not wanderlust, bohemian style wandering nomad quest to just do good wherever he goes. So this is like his current stop along whatever route. He's at a bus stop in the middle of nowhere. Him taking out the coffee machine because it won't give a guy his coffee is hilarious. He just does all these nouns and verbs and descriptive phrasings that's just hilarious. Like he owns it and all that stuff. It's like that's just funny. I love it. But anyway, until the guy who runs the bus stop, kind of talks him into saying that the original idea was for him to go to the city anyway. So that's where he decides to go. So that's why he ends up at the city in this. In the Amazon Prime version, which is now going to be in season 2 soon, the Tick just appears behind Arthur. Arthur is being proactive in trying to track down villains and prove that they are part of the terrorist organization, that the terror will soon return because the terror traumatized him when he was a boy. So, he tries to track down the terror, and the Tick just mysteriously appears behind him saying, "Don't give up, chum. Be brave and keep at it." And that's pretty much basically the Tick just appears, and it's implied that the Tick is a manifestation, a living manifestation of Arthur's inner hero that just somehow just became real. Well, that's implied anyway, so I'm rather curious about that. I don't know how the comic ends. The TV series ended on a basic high note where it was a good episode, I believe, a bit more higher stakes budget episode, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe the series ended well. I'm going to get volume 2 soon, hopefully. Granted, the whole series on DVD is missing 2 episodes overall. One of them is slightly pivotal, but whatever. It's the bulk of it, so I can live with that. The TV show ended, again, on a good note, on a good episode, which was chronologically episode 2. Even though it's a backflash episode, it's still pretty nice. We're still going to be in season 2. Oh, end of season 1, I love in the Amazon Prime because Arthur gets kidnapped by the Terror, and Arthur he comes through with his bag over his head, and the bag is removed, and the Terror says, it goes, Siri, put on ominous music, and Siri replies, shuffling your playlist for ominous music. And it starts playing reasonably ominous music, and then the Terror suddenly appears right next to Arthur, like this, comes in the frame like this, and saying, he just says, cliffhanger, and Arthur turns and goes, what? And then it just cuts to black and starts rolling credits. Best cliffhanger I've ever seen. So, yeah, I'm looking very forward to season 2. Yeah. So the Amazon Prime series is just like the TV show, more modernized, a lot more straightforward, no undertones, which is nice. I like that. There's no undertones. It's just straightforward hero, newbie hero, and villains in the world, and it's trying to establish more of a heroic lore, backstory about heroes, that there were superpowered people before then, and what their legacy is, and what happened to everybody, and some of them are missing, and what happened to them, and who the hell is this guy in a blue suit, and and this current villain lady who's pretty good, called Lint, and she's telling the Tick, like, what's your name, lady? And he says, I am Lint. He goes, I don't get it. He goes, you're not supposed to. And she's shocking the Tick, and he's like, the only thing that actually really hurts the Tick at all is her lightning. And he's just taking it with some amount of stride, and she's saying, why won't you just die? And he's there saying, because I don't wanna. It's funny. I never laughed so hard. That was good. That was really good. Anyway, so yeah, the Tick franchise is running good and strong. I liked it. Maybe someday I'll get the comic. I believe I got the first comic. I think I bought the first comic and autographed it for a friend of mine, Ken, I believe. think. I don't know, it's been years. That was back in '08. Last time I got the, what was that, '07? I can't remember. Anyway, point is, the franchise is strong. All the different incarnations are reasonably pretty good and done well. And I can't really find too much wrong with it other than those slight overtones. Because it just feels like a little overused, like everyone wants to do that. Seinfeld got away with it a lot better because they turned into like a meme, you know. Because not that there's anything wrong with that. See, that's funny because everybody kept saying it throughout the course of the episode. As opposed to this, it feels like, I was like, yeah, it's just kind of like a forced plot point that just needs to be there because we have to have the parallel. It's like, you don't really need to have the parallel. You can just have it be, you know, it's just not a very good dynamic. That's it. Whatever. You want to put in the subtext or what the fuck ever. You know, it's their show. But yeah, other than that, it's funny. It's goofy. It makes me laugh. It keeps me entertained. And I'm pretty sure if Brad and Co. had been marathoned it too, they would say basically the same thing. And they too would also be barefoot as well. It is quite comfortable. Anyway, until next time, fair, faithful viewer, take care and see you at the movies.